Hello and welcome. You're tuned to The Leg Up, your weekly thoroughbred preview podcast, and it's finally happened. I've got rid of them all. Stephen Hunt not with us this week on daddy duty. Paul Mawadi swanning somewhere around the country on a golf course, I think. So I'm on my own. You've got an hour of me exclusive, just talking directly to you. No, I wouldn't do that to you for an hour. No one would sign off on that on trackside. We do have a couple of guests with us, a special guest, which we'll get to in a moment, but first, I want to say good morning to Brendan Probabeel. BP, sorry if I look a bit tired, mate. There was a leak in the tent last night and the Barry Manilow was going at about 4 o'clock. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Thad. Boy, what a start to the show. Here's thinking it was going to be just you to begin with, and we were able to bring in this special guest, which will just help us alleviate that time out to 1 hour, which I think was going to be crucial, isn't it? But we've got a lot to talk about, though, haven't we, Thad, at the same time, because it's a big day of racing out of Ellerslie, the Avondale Cup and the Avondale Guineas, as we get oh so close to that important carnival out of Ellerslie. And we'll also look back, because as we look back on what was a terrific weekend out of Te Rapa on those Group 1s around Levante and Coventina Bay, it really has been a good period of racing, and there's still more of it to come.
Yeah, how good was the clash? There was the clash we wanted, Levante on Treviere, and lived up to the billing, didn't it?
It did, and you'd have to say that Ryan Elliott got that bang on too with how he was able to produce that ride with Levante and beat his biggest danger in the race, which was on Treviere, who was in a pocket and around one of the roughies in the race in Monaco, and he meant that he got the way on and got going with Levante on that around about the 500 metre mark. And just those couple of strides that on Treviere was held up for, then she was produced. We saw the clash between these two horses down the straight, but it was Levante who had the way on, and in the end, it is now 2-1 Levante v on Treviere, and there will be more to come through that clash. It was what we were hoping for. We got the intended clash, and now we just want a bit more of it, because that was a serious horse race.
Yeah, dead right we do. You're exactly right. It was exactly what we were after. As I say, no Stephen Hunt, no Paul Mawadi this week, which is a shame in some respects, but in a way, we're a little bit lucky here. We've got an esteemed journalist. He's the author of many books. He's a jockey agent to the stars. But I'd suggest, Aidan Rodley, this could be your finest moment. Good morning to you.
Yeah, hi, Thad. Really pleased to get the call up. You know, it must have been, ninth on the list, and there's you clicking off 5, 6. No, they're unavailable. We'll go to number 9. So I'm pleased to be here, and hopefully we can just add some, shed some light on that Invercargill form, and maybe have a look through those Ellerslie races. It's a key lead up into the Auckland Cup and the day into the New Zealand Derby as well. And really nice program at Invercargill. Some good betting races. Track conditions might be just a little bit of a concern there, just how that track does play. But there's enough in some of those, especially support races, to get quite excited.
Yeah, 100%. It's great betting cards up and down the country. Aidan, Probabeel, we must touch on Probabeel, obviously retired during the week. A shame.
Yeah, real shame. And unfortunately, we were going to see her in some really big races. But what she's achieved already, a 4-time Group 1 winner, I put her in the same sort of class as maybe Ethereal. A horse who was really at the top of the game and captured public imagination. She was in the same sort of era as Melody Bell and Avondale, and did most of her racing in Australia, so maybe she didn't capture the public imagination in the same way that Melody Bell did. And in that same light, Ethereal, it was very much in Sunline shadow through her career as well. Not saying that Probabeel was any inferior. She's our New Zealand Horse of the Year, and she did a stellar job, and some of her performances absolutely mind-blowing. And obviously the first horse to do that Karaka Million 2-year-old and 3-year-old double here in New Zealand, as well as all those big wins in Australia.
You just saw her will to win, didn't you, Aidan? And that first up run in Melbourne on last Saturday, I mean, she had no right to win that, really, and she just didn't know when to quit, did she?
Crazy good comeback, and really encouraging for what was in front, but obviously just that little issue, and she's too valuable now. She'll be retired. Henry Plumtree suggesting she might even go to Al Mansour and Cambridge to start to support their own in the first season. And then, of course, yesterday we got the news as well that Ocean Billy had done a tendon as well, and he'll come home, have a year on the sidelines and maybe build up again. But obviously not quite in Probabeel's class, but another Group 1 winner on the sidelines, which we don't like to see.
No, we do not. No, the one thing we can mention is that future-proof for all those races with Probabeel in Australia will kick in if you had a single bet up to $50. You'll get a bonus bet back in your account if that hasn't happened. It won't be too far away, BP. Before we touch on Ellerslie, or preview Ellerslie for the weekend, we want to touch on your maiden of the week. What can you give us?
Yeah, it was a tricky one, I thought, this week with the Maiden because we had that wet track out of Tauranga on Wednesday. But we'll go to that meeting, and I was really taken by Bellatrix Black, just a horse that was ready to win a maiden race with the way that she was really working home in all of her races. She ran that second last time out, beaten 2.5 lengths behind Madame Moet, and it was just franking nicely that she was on the right path, and that was the case because this is what she was able to do here. She does a really good job once balancing up to put this field away and show that she is on that right path. She's a 3-year-old filly by Redwood that was over 1,600 metres, the second time that she's gone to that distance. So maybe the way that she's even gone through the line there, breeding would suggest that she can go a touch further. So nice win. And the other good factor too about that win, that was Taiki Yanagita's first win as a senior jockey. And as I said, balanced up beautifully and then got the job done, did Bellatrix Black. So we'll mark that as our maiden of the week.
Yeah, very good. We'll wait to see that on weigh in on Monday as well. Bellatrix Black, a good win. Okay, guys, we want to have a look at Ellerslie first. We've got 4 races we want to preview. And we're going to start in race number 2. Aidan might have a fair bit to say here, but we'll get to BP first. The Fleet Image 1,200 metres. Bonnie Lass, our favourite, $4. Not Guilty, Tony Pike, $4.80. A good second last time out. Quattro Quinta first up, as is Follow Your Dreams, $6, $8.50 respectively. Cool Change in a good vein of form, $9. Beldara, 10. Saracen ran a good race last time, 11. Doubtful Sound, $13. Bella Luce, 14. And we're out to 26. We're quick and away. And the Rankies at 51, Dragon Biscuit and Stars and Cream BP. Nice little 1,200 metre race. This is a few ways you can slice this cake.
I think there is. I think this is a very good race to be able to get our teeth into this second race. Look, Bonnie Lass has Group 1 form as a 2-year-old. We saw her return in brilliant fashion, of course, here at this venue on Boxing Day with how she won, and then she went forward and took on Sort of State at her most recent start to the races. And look, there was still enough with what happened in that race and how it unfolded for her to say that she can be a huge player in this race. Barrier draw brings her in. There's been market support for her, $5.50 into already $4. Not Guilty's a horse that I think we can play a forgive card on. Now, this runner has been beaten by a Group 1 place getter in I Wish I Win. Yes, there were those little concerns about where I Wish I Win was leading into that race off the back of Not Guilty's very good figures in terms of winning a maiden race when first time of asking. I still think there's a bit more to offer from her, and she is nicely drawn in barrier number 4. They're the 2 key players, I thought, in the race, and then you're starting to work out horses like Quattro Quinta, who's had some recent trials and also an exhibition gallop drawn out for Opie Bosson, but a horse who's shown really good quality and potential. And then you're sort of around Saracen and Doubtful Sound and those type of horses and Follow Your Dreams at the top of the book. But I'm really keen to get Aidan's thoughts here on Bonnie Lass, of course, a runner that he's got to wear share in, and just to see where she's at, because the money is telling us that she might be bang on the mark, close to where she was, say, 12 months ago when she won a Mudda Breeders.
Are we going to get an objective analysis of this race, Aidan, around in the second of the day with your interest in Bonnie Lass? Declare your interest, please.
No, there'll be no sort of separate. This will be a race just looked at with rose-coloured glasses and clear bias. She was great returning, and obviously, as BP said, she's a Group 2 Mudda Breeders Stakes winner this time last year before going on to Group 1 placings and both the 2-year-old races. She came back to prepare for 1,000 guineas and was pretty good off a wide run in the Soliloquy Stakes, got the hind quarter injury and was put aside. So she's back. She might have just felt the track a little bit last time out, but speaking to track rider Shell and also Mike, who rode in company with her in track work on Tuesday out there at Mudda, they were raving about her work, saying she's in really good order. Geez, Graham Richardson and Rogan Norville have done a terrific job looking after her. And I think she's the horse to beat. Outside that, Quattro Quinta, there's a good word to say that he's come back in really good order, liking Follow Your Dreams and the trial we saw there. Beldara's got it upside. This is a really, really nice race, so a lot of depth to it. I think we'll see Doubtful Sound run at Hastings on Sunday, but a really nice race, but it's all Bonnie Lass for me, boys.
Yeah, no surprise. Look, there'd be no deduction for Doubtful Sound coming out of this race as a $13 chance. Anything above $10 doesn't require a deduction. Let's talk about the track quickly, Aidan. I think it sits at a dead 5 now. That'd be perfect for Bonnie Lass. So maybe the chance of a few showers. We're probably going to end up in that dead range, fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. For her, she probably sticks to the sprint trips, whereas this might be a lead into, for some of these horses, going towards a Living Classic at Trentham. But otherwise, they can go to races like the El Mansour on Cup Week. I think it's the El Mansour, maybe it's the Mr. Tiz, one of those races anyhow. And then the other option is going to Wellington for Wellington Guineas into Living Classic. But yeah, I think she'll stick to the sprint trips.
Whose dog is that? Put your hand up.
Yeah, it's obviously at home. That's the beauty about doing these things from home, isn't it?
That's all right. You're on the leg up. It doesn't matter. You make mistakes. The dog can bark. We bring the children in shortly. BP, not guilty. Look, there's a bit of a rap on this. There was really challenged. I think it took over favouritism against I Wish I Win last time. So you mentioned playing the forgive card, but they obviously got a high opinion of this one, not guilty.
They do. Look, don't start offering kids to come on the show, because my two boys will be on the show lickety split. Yes, you're right. Not guilty as a horse, I think. Just with how that race panned out, it just wasn't quite for her, and how I Wish I Win and Opie Bosson got that race bang on. And I think that's what it really does come down to in the small margins of defeat, therefore not guilty. There is one horse here, I think, if you are entertaining, trying to play away from these horses in the top of the market, in the middle market, it's top 4 maybe, or a place bet, or a trifecta chance. And it is number 10 in Bella Luce. Now, she's a horse that has had no luck last time out to the races when she drew an outside gate in barrier number 9, where she had to cover extra ground. She's a horse who has a low draw. She's drawn barrier number 1 on the weekend. She can use that draw. She's a horse who did so 2 starts ago when winning here at this venue. She has a really nice turn of foot when held up for. Now, she is a horse that hasn't been tested yet. Yes, that is granted in terms of the type of horses she's taken on. But just like what I've seen to the eye with how she's delivered new 2 victories, they've both been right-handed, one at Te Araha and the other here out of Ellerslie. If you're just trying to find one away from those horses that are all at the top of this market, and as I said, top 4, Bella Luce will be getting a piece of my cash.
I see it's a losing result here. I don't know. You've obviously you've got a few people supporting you. You echo those comments, Aidan, around Bella Luce. Obviously, I can tell you it's the worst result in the race as it currently stands.
Wow. There's definitely upside around her, and but as I said, this is a race of real depth and quality, and it's you got to be finding value. If BP's found some value there with Bella Luce, good on him, but. I'll stick to the favourite. Thanks, boys.
Oh, no surprise. Look, BP, just Saracen quickly. I just want to, if you like, not guilty. At $11, Saracen probably is worth a gold coin each way. Yeah,
and it was a horse that went into that race with a very good win. And I know Stephen, if I remember rightly, Stephen was just questioning that victory in terms of how that race. For him in figures didn't quite match up, so he was looking for a performance from that horse in that race. And look, he's finished into 3rd position. He's been beaten 2 lengths behind a couple of nice types. So barrier draw is an issue. Will they look to overcome that by being positive out of the barriers and putting him into the race, or is it a race where they look to ride him neutral and try and come over the top? So that's the sticky point with Saracen. But I think what we saw from last time is he's up to this type of capable field. He's looked pretty good so far, and I know there's been a little reputation around his ability too.
And quickly, how do you line up Cool Change? Because winner of 2 of its last 3, but probably not quite at this level, but probably, say, surprised last time, won well. Can Cool Change keep taking the step up?
Yeah, look, Cool Change just fell into a nice race last time at that Maiden Azat race with already a victory on the board. Now, what she's shown with how she's won those 2 races is she's been able to use good draws. She won 3 starts ago at Te Araha, where she was up on speed. She was looked at by Noble Win, and she ran away from the rest of them. And there was a couple of other horses that ran on well from the back of the field, like Selassie and Billy Bunter and those type of horses. And then she was beaten in a stakes race at her next start in behind Sordid State. They had a shot at the stumps with her, and then they found that race last week at Te Rapa. So quick backup, but she is drawn well enough to give herself an opportunity. Last start, she just sat in behind speed and she got the job done. So this is up on class what she faced last time to the races, but she's got runs on the board. She's been running throughout the season, so she becomes one of those chances again for the trifecta in first 4. It's about how you try and cut that back, isn't it? It's about how and which horses you don't want involved in your trifecta in first 4, because if you start spreading the net too far, all of a sudden you're left with not much of a percentage and not much of a chance of winning too much back for your return. So yeah, it's how you cut it back really, and maybe you cut it back by just keeping the top end a little bit light. Your horses like Not Guilty, Bonnie Lass, and whatever else you're liking from there, and then try and add in that value there through second and third and fourth.
Do you think it's a trifecta race, BP? Is that what you're saying to me?
Yeah, I do. Because if a horse like Bella Luce can be a part of the first three placings, well, you're getting immediate value there, aren't you? 15s and say 350, 380, somewhere around that mark. If she's able to run a hole or even win the race, well, then you're getting a great return on your ticket already. If it's a Not Guilty, sort of follow your dreams, Quattro Quinta, Bonnie Lass, trifecta first four, maybe not. So you have to try and inject it somehow.
How would you attack this race, Aidan? Need I ask how you'd attack this race number 2, the Fleet Image 1200?
Yeah, it's just an on-the-nose race for mine, and we'll go to Bonnie Lass.
Yeah, okay. No, fair enough. Look, she looked really good last time. I went 2 starts ago in particular, and no luck in a strong race last time, caught wide, and Aidan said the track work during the week has been very good around Bonnie Lass. Gentlemen, race number 3 on the card, as I scroll to it, is the sprint, the open sprint, the Network Visuals 1200 metres. Look, I looked at this race and I thought, I don't know about this race. And then the more I start to look at it, BP, the more I like it. Not a bad race, Babylon Berlin 350, but geez, a wave in behind of progressive sort of sprinters.
There is, isn't there? This is that chance to look at that next wave of sprinters, or maybe that next grade down behind, your Levante and on Trivier that we use as our Group 1 benchmark, and so we should with those horses, dominating, 3 of our Group 1 sprint races this season. And then to try and work out just where everybody else sits. Babylon Berlin, she has tackled those horses in a railway and finished into 3rd position behind on Trivier and Levante when running 3rd, then stepped up next time to the races without those horses in, and she was able to get the job done on Karaka Million Night. Now, what I would say here is there is a red flag about her going to 62 kilograms and having a wide draw. Wide draw maybe not so much because she's so fast out of the barriers, she can overcome that. But when she has to tackle a rival that was up against her last time to the races in Iconic Lass, and there is such a difference in the weights here. I mean, the swing in the weights is 5 kilograms for Saturday's race between Iconic Lass and Babylon Berlin. Iconic Lass has got a better barrier draw, has a chance of being able to get to that position where they want to be and be forward and running. I'm pretty keen to have something on her. Iconic Star. Iconic Star. Now she's a horse that, just the way that she performed last time out, has to be a big player in this race, and with that weight swing in her favour. Look, Babylon Berlin is a horse I really do like, and I've been keen about her all season, but I just wonder if this is a race where it just doesn't quite fit for her. If she is the class act of the field, and I think she deserves to be favourite for those reasons, but just trying to maybe step away from her having such a big weight and maybe having to do some work early. Is there a chance to try and play away from Babylon Berlin? How's
your mindset here, Aidan? Because, look, Babylon Berlin, look, on paper, there's no festivities here, you potentially might say, but jumps to 62, that's no mean feat, is it? Are you with or again here?
I am with her. The 62 does worry me a little bit. The wide draw, not so much, because the horse drawn immediately on her inside is the likely leader in the race in Rose and Power. So you'd think that they'd just track forward, and she'd be able to use Rose and Power to take her right into the race. So I expect Rose and Power to lead here with Babylon Berlin just sitting on her outside. And then ideally that they can just dictate there, and that should mean that she's not having to quicken. So the 62 then isn't such a factor as if she's having to go from a sprinting position from 300 metres out or whatever. I agree with BP. Iconic Star off a 3-length margin on a 5 kilogram swing. Certainly, there's really got to be respect about her. And Riding the Wave was another one out of that same race who comes in a couple of kilograms better than Babylon Berlin. Here's a horse who's running in an Oakley plate this time last year, so I wouldn't be ruling him out either. And then Mega Bourbon's a horse who I do like as well, liking the fact that he's another horse on that 54 minimum with real upside. I saw the 3rd last time out was very good. You've got to be a little bit cautious around Babylon Berlin with the weight mainly and the wide draw next. But she is narrowly comes out on top for me ahead of Iconic Star.
Yeah, okay. I can understand that. She's classy, and I don't have to have any fear around the barrier draw of 12 with her. BP, look, riding the wave, the one that Aidan mentioned there, we've sort of been on it. We've been wanting to be on it. The run was encouraging last time. And Mega Bourbon as well. There's a host of them there around $8, but riding the wave looks like it's coming to it.
I think so. I think he's getting there slowly, isn't he? I mean, he has run the fastest 8, 6 and 2 in that race last time out in the Concord behind Babylon Berlin. So that would suggest to me that he's been a work in progress, and he's slowly getting there. As I said, what was it, 2 starts ago, we were keen to have something on him at a really big quote if he was able to find that form where he was before going to Australia. He was in a red hot piece of form, was riding the wave, and maybe it's just a case that it's just taken them a little bit of time to find that form with him. And I know Nigel, he's been a little unhappy with him in terms of, just with where he's been in the coat and how he's progressed since coming back to NZ. But that last run just gives you that encouragement that he's not too far off the mark. He could be a bet at $8. He might be a better bet as a place chance in terms of a top 3 or a top 4 if you were just a touch worried about maybe Babylon Berlin and being close to the speed and maybe too hard to catch. I'm happy to have 2 bets in the race. I want to have something on Riding the Wave, and I want to have something on Iconic Star. Nothing too crazy, but they're both at prices where you can have a split bet of $6 and $8. And hey, look, you put your hands up at Babylon Berlin, gets in that right position outside leader and wins the race, because let's be honest, she is not too far off our next best of sprinters, is she? She's run 3rd behind Levante and on Trivier. Mascarpone and Rock and Horse are those other 2 horses that are in that conversation, aren't they? In terms of our next best sprinters behind those 2. So if she's in that conversation, well, you'd have to say she deserves to be winning this race like she was last time in winning a Concord.
Aidan, Raposa Repeaters one I want to have a quick chat about, dropping back from 1,400 metres, but I see some money for it here. Opened, I think, around 12 into 10, it might have even been 13 into 10. A little bit of push there, Raposa Repeater.
Yeah, absolutely. And another one of the Marsh team, he's got Iconic Star and Mega Bourbon in there as well. And he had expected that he'd be the 62 kilogram horse in the race. So to carry 60 and a half just gives him that little bit of relief. And maybe his best form's been away from Ellerslie, but he's well capable, and I don't think he's the worst of chances there as well. Just one thing on the weights as well. This race will be a key lead up into the Honui Farm King's Plate on Derby Day at Ellerslie, and so you think about where Babylon Berlin will sit in that set weights and penalties affair. Yes, she carries 62 tomorrow, but on Derby Day she'll be back to 55, 54. So she'll be really primed for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Aidan, give us a sort of your bets or how you would attack the race. It sounds like you've got Babylon. I guess the whole crux of this race is whether you've got Babylon Berlin on top or not.
You just got to respect her. So she's in there, and if I was wanting to play the race as a win race, then I'd be saving on Iconic Star, I think.
Yeah, okay, $6. Yeah, it was a good run. BP, you've already told us you've gone Iconic Star riding the wave, but look, familiars there, Mega Bourbon, Rose and Power, Raposa Repeater. Take your pick if you're potting the favourite with the 62, I guess.
Yeah, it's a really nice field, isn't it? Familiar, 3rd in a Hallmark. Rose and Power has been a stakes winner, of course, already this season. She's been able to rack up the wins by putting herself in the race. And Mega Bourbon, same again. I mean, what was 4th in a Hallmark? Really good placing last time to the races. So there's good depth, really good depth through the race, and that should help it as a betting affair. If punters are starting to shop away from Babylon Berlin, that might mean you could gravitate back towards Babylon Berlin if she is starting to work out and other horses start taking money. So, real watch on the market and an interesting race to bet into. But, yeah, as I said, little split bet around Riding the Wave and Iconic Star.
It will be very interesting to see where Babylon Berlin starts in this market. 3.5 currently, and a losing result, and well back, best backed in fact, in the sprint there, race number 3 on the card. But here's some funny things could happen there. As I said, the more I looked at that race, the more I liked it, particularly, with those up-and-coming sprinters there and as a betting proposition. Gentlemen, race number 4 on the card, the Welland Concreters Avondale Cup Group 2, over the 2,400 metres, and We've got a clear top two here, BP. Concert Hall, $2.40. Our Hail Mary, $3.50. Mohaka is at $9. Hit the Road Jack, 11 with Hinipata, who enjoys running up over ground. Enright, 18. The Bounder, 18. Te Akau Caliburn, 21. Roger that, 21. Hino Apilio, your likely potential leader, $31. Beam Me Up, Scotty, and Ifraginator. Not given too much here currently at $81, but BP, a clear top two on the ratings anyway.
Yes, this is a curly race, isn't it? I mean, with the Avondale Cup, Concert Hall having to carry 59 kilograms. She's the class act of the field. Look, we all know that, and hence why she has, she's been left with this type of weight in a handicap race with her rating of 105, and with how she dealt to her rivals to start to go in a City of Auckland Cup where she had to carry, 57.5 when she did beat the stablemate on that occasion in a very small field. Our Hail Mary is a horse that, again, is tracking towards, some better races. And I know that Alan Sharrock has been keen to get this horse north, and she is a deserved second favourite. But then what do you do with the remainder of this field that are looking to try and, gain themselves some good stake money, try and work their way into the Auckland Cup? There is a lot of horses here that are on the 52 kilograms, for instance. From Te Akau Caliburn down to Iskander, they're all 52 kilos. And they are all horses that are decided that they'll have a shot at the stumps. Thank you very much for $120,000 as staying prospects. Do you go to the top of the book and just say that they hold all the class and should be, running 1-2 on merits? They should be because of what they've done in their careers. I just find it really hard to try and work out in behind what these other horses can provide to the race, because I just can't work them out. I just can't work out your sort of Hinipatas who has been racing well, and then this is another step up on the weekend. Enright, for instance, again has been racing with very good form in through those lower graders. Is it just how our staying races are shaped at the moment that these horses are deserved of a chance because of, even though they're low in the ratings, there is not many staying horses about that are keen to have a shot at a race like this. So I think it's around the top two. If I was liking one away from them, the Bounder. Now, the Bounder's a horse who ran a really good race 2 starts ago in the Dunstan Feeds final. Now, that's a race you can leverage off in terms of getting to some of these Cups races. One of the runs of the race, I thought, from back in the field, back last on the point of the bend, and still did a really good job to run through the line. Now, at its next start, it's in having to carry, 60 kilograms in a rating 65. Now, I'm talking about a horse who's running rating 65 company last time out as a chance in an Avondale Cup, but that's just how the field shaped up. Drops down to 52 kilos. He might be a horse that could run into third or fourth at a bit of value, but yeah, I found this race a bit of a trick race overall, Thad.
Yeah, I can't blame you. It feels like a bit of a trap race, Aidan. Look, she steps back up to the 2,400 metres, which we see her run a City of Auckland Cup at Concert Hall, and 7 kgs off the minimum or above the minimum doesn't seem like enough, does it?
It really doesn't. Those horses should be getting 10 kilograms off and not just the 7. So for her to be in 59, and then she drops to 56 in an Auckland Cup as well. She's a Group 1 winner. She's well proven over these trips. She's won a Manawatu Cup early in her career at 2,300 metres as well. So while they have been playing with her distances a little bit, getting her back from 1,600 metres, back from 2,400 metres last time, and she was so wide throughout in that last run as well. So she's well capable. She's clearly the yardstick, and I don't think she's really badly weighted either. It's just whether this might be something of a lead-up run into the Auckland Cup and not her target, but it's a Group 2 for a brood mare. They'll be wanting to pick this off, and I think she is the yardstick horse. Our Hail Mary is the danger. The last couple of runs have both been good, and Mohaka's I think the best of the 52 kilogram horses, but there really isn't a lot of depth. It's not the first time we're going to say that about a stakes race this weekend, to be fair, to this Avondale Cup, but at least we've got a Group 1 yardstick in the race, and she should be winning at Concert Hall.
Yeah, $2.40. Look, down the page, BP, you mentioned, Te Akau Caliburn has been a star of note at times. Roger that, the former Auckland Cup winner. Can we see him getting back to some form at 54 kilograms around Roger that? But boy, oh boy, the more you look at it, the more Concert Hall just falls into this, doesn't it?
Well, it is Roger that's chance to be able to do something, isn't it? I mean, this is an opportunity for him to find that form again. Of course, it was a race similar to this that he actually did win, wasn't it, here at Ellerslie what was it, a small field back in January last year when he won over 2,100 metres and he had to carry 58 kilograms, and he was able to get things back on track on that occasion where he had another tilt going towards the Cup. So yes, maybe. Look, Mohawk is a horse who does have stakes form, and as Aidan said, she does look to be the one out of the 52 kilogram horses that will give herself a chance. She's a horse who can put herself in the race. She's drawn well, so she's likely to go forward. She's going right-handed for the very first time is Mohaka, so that means obviously first time here at Ellerslie. But just with what she's done previously, there's a bit of form to work with in good races, where there are a number of these horses are coming from 74 to 65 races and trying to suggest that they could be a chance of beating a Group 1 winner or a horse that's been in stakes company. I mean, there's 2 Group 1 winners in the race, and you've got Al Hail Mary as well. So it's a big ask. It's a really big ask for those horses that are having a shot here, and that's why I think we always just keep coming back to what's at the top of the book.
Mohaka beat our Hail Mary home last time, I think, 4th and 5th in that was it Martin Cup. So $9 Mohaka. As you say, she's a game mare.
Yeah, was it Taranaki Cup, wasn't it?
Taranaki Cup, my
just
apologies.
the weekend just
You're
gone.
right.
Yeah.
Quite
Of course, the race that was moved to last Friday in behind Hypnos. Look, Mohawk is a horse who has been racing well. I mean, we've seen the effort. What was it? Even in a Taranaki Breeders beat home Concert Hall. Now track conditions were against Concert Hall, but look, was able to run a big race on that occasion. We've seen the horse perform in a Fielding Cup and those type of races. So that's all good form and good past form up against some of those 52 kilogram horses.
Aidan hit the road jack as a losing result in the Auckland Cup, I can tell you, for the Phelan team. Coming out of some of those 74, got a similar profile to a lot of horses in this race. Where do you place hit the road jack?
Well, I think they'll be really positive with this horse as much as they can be. I think he's also in the Wairoa Cup, isn't he, on Sunday as well? But whether he runs in this, he's like obviously he gets his chance off that 52 kilogram minimum, but what we've seen of him in recent starts, he does need to improve, but maybe they can just take advantage of getting a good tactical run somewhere near the speed, and that might be his positive, but for mine he needs to improve.
And Hinipara, Aidan, look, dropped back in distance, was in good form up over a trip, but it's a trip to Ellerslie for the first time for Hinipara.
I can't believe that she's at 11s. I think she is massive unders at that price. I really like what she's been doing, but she's a $30 chance at least in this for mine.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. We're not going to get you away from the favourites here, are we, in the Avondale Cup, Aidan?
Well, I think you just got to default to it more than anything, and that really is Concert Hall. You know, those horses, if you'd be super surprised if any of those horses that you've just spoken about could beat Concert Hall. And if it did, that would be a massive surprise. You know, she's a Group 1 winner. She's been consistent in group company right through. They're rolling the dice at 52 kilograms at 2,400 metres on a right-hand track, you know, sometimes for the first time. So it would be a massive surprise to see those type of horses turn the tables on a Concert Hall. Yeah,
okay. BP, how would you attack this from a betting perspective? Are we talking fixed exactas here? Starting to talk fixed exactas.
Here we go. Possibly. We could be. I'll throw one bet at you. A top 4 bet around the bounder. Look, there's got to be one of these horses that can run a super race somewhere along the, that's that piece of value. Is it Mohaka from a draw perspective going forward? She's $2 to run top 4. You've got Enright at $3. He's been running well, just beaten behind Spirit of Baz, and Hinipara $2.30. The bounder $3. They're all top 4 chances if they can get the right sort of run. That might be the best way to try and play some of those horses. Is if you're concerned about what's at the top and you're unsure maybe which horse is going to win out of those 2 runners, maybe try and explore an option like that. So the bounder looking to work home and finish into 4th spot.
Okay, don't mind it. We need to find something, didn't we, in that Avondale Cup? It was a tricky one with a Concert at $2.40. Good money for Hinipara. Aidan's telling us it's gross unders at $11. Okay, guys, the main race of the day, the race we're all most interested in, I would suggest, is the AJC Avondale Guineas Group 2 over the 2,100 metres. Market in front of you now. Perfect Pink, $3.20, our favourite. La Crique, who I think opened favourite at $3.30. Tutakaka, $6. Field of Gold, good Waikato Guineas win last time, 8.5. White Noise doing nothing wrong, $10. Marchand 15. Titoki 18. Nest Egg 18. RJ's Flight 26. Regal Lion 31, and the outsiders here, Yes We Can and Opeo Joe, $81. Gee, this is intriguing, BP. We've got the two fillies here. We've got the top 4 for the Derby. We've probably got the top 5 for the Derby if you threw White Noise into proceedings. An intriguing addition of the Avondale Guineas.
It is. It really is, isn't it, with these fillies? Now, just talk about money here, Thad, around these two horses. So it was $3.20 Le Creek, or $3. Le Creek on opening,
Yep.
$3.50 the Perfect Pink, then a flip. Now, obviously, we've had support again this morning because now it's $3.20 the Perfect Pink, $3.30 Le Creek. Have you got anything there in terms of money? What's happening?
No, you're dead right. Look, there was some good strong money for the Perfect Pink as soon as we opened this market, and the traders did react. Now the question could be asked, have we overreacted? Now back to $3.30 La Creek from $3.50. The Perfect Pink touched 3, back out to $3.20. So look, I can tell you in terms of dollars invested, they basically split it right down the middle. Dollar for dollar they match. So this is going to be an intriguing little battle to see who does start favourite. But in saying that, I don't think the chances end there, Pops.
Look, it doesn't. It really doesn't. This is a super field, and I think it sets up for the Derby now, doesn't it? Because if you get a horse away from these top 3 or 4 that runs a race, and so often in the Avondale Guineas, there is a roughie that runs well and all of a sudden is propelled into contention as a Derby horse. And I'm pretty sure that there will be a horse in this market that is well down that will run very well. And I think a horse like Regal Lion potentially falls into that category. He was super, I thought, in the Waikato Guineas when running 5th. He ran the fastest last 200 in a race that was dominated by Field of Gold in front in the Waikato Guineas. Yep, Perfect Pink for sure was the next best horse in that race by the way that she ran through the line. She ran the fastest 8, 6 and 4. But Regal Lion from back in the field to be able to run into 5th position, he's got a good barrier draw. Sounds like the courier man's back at Aiden's place. So running into 5th position, Regal Lion, I just feel as though he's got a chance here of running a big race here and then propelling himself into the Derby. And if OTI's decided to buy into the horse, again, I'm pretty sure they've got a sharp eye to suggest that it won't be just this Derby they're contesting. It might be one coming up in a few weeks' time later out of Australia.
Aidan, initial thoughts here. Look, the Derby market really taking shape now, and we can almost see it here in this Avondale Guineas market.
Absolutely, and isn't it great to see the Waikato Guineas becoming a key race again? You know, they had it the week before the Avondale Guineas, but just giving it that extra time has meant that now horses can go Waikato Guineas, Avondale Guineas, and into the Derby again, and that's where we've seen sort of some of the top horses in recent years coming through. That's how we saw, you know, the Puccinis and Mongolian Khans and Langipos go into New Zealand derbies. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that Waikato Guineas form stacks up, and I think it's the right form. I think Field of Gold's a great chance here. I was really impressed by the way that he was able to dictate tempo. He quickened twice in running, once at the 800, once at the 400, and then went clear, and then kept up a good galloper in his first go up and trip, and then he was good after the line as well. I think he's just about the horse to beat here. I really like the 850 on him. You've got to like what the Perfect Pink was doing, as BP said. Those sectionals were really good for a horse coming from well back in a race that really was otherwise dominated by those on speed. RJ's Flight wasn't bad in that same race, and as BP said, Regal Lion was really good late indeed. And on that, surely Regal Lion and White Noise give Murray Baker a chance to get over to Sydney for a final carnival, a final Sydney carnival, and to attack the race he loves so much, the Australian Derby as well. So, yeah, I've got real respect around that. And here's a bit of a poser for you boys. No horses in the last 10 years come out of either the Karaka Million 3-year-old or the Desert Gold to win a Derby. So how much weight do we put on those two races? Because Tutukaka was terrific at Ellerslie. Like Creek was excellent at Trentham, but there's no precedent for them.
I feel there's a bit of timing about Tutukaka, BP. Look, it's running a Victorian Derby, obviously. And then Tony Pike's been taking it very quietly. I say quietly. He's had a couple of 1,600-metre runs into this, and obviously the run in the Karaka Million 3-year-old over the mile was very good, but we're expecting Tutukaka to be better when it gets up over ground, gets its chance to do that. And I just feel like they've been stitching something together around Tutukaka.
And I guess they have been planning it that way because they're trying to peak him twice in a preparation for two derbies. They had a shot at a Victorian derby where he worked his way up towards 2,500 metres, and then they had to bring him back to New Zealand and then work a path slowly towards getting towards that Vodafone New Zealand derby and peaking again later on in his preparation. I think what he has on his side, Tutukaka, against all his rivals, not for just this race, but also for the Vodafone New Zealand derby, is that he has had a number of runs beyond 1,600 metres. Now, overall, he's actually had 4 runs beyond the mile. Now, he's won over 1,830 metres. He's been 5th over 1,800 metres. Of course, he then won the Geelong Classic, which was over 2,200 metres, and then competed in the Victorian Derby over 2,500 metres. So often we get to this stage of the Derby preparation, who can stay, who's going to be able to see out a distance. Now, there is still probably a couple of question marks on that on a few horses here, or maybe some that have only run beyond 1,600 metres just once, and that might have been their start prior in the Waikato Guineas. So you can tick that box already with Tutukaka. You know that he is going to be able to see out a trip because he has gone beyond the 1,600 metres. Look, he's even gone beyond the 2,400 metres of the New Zealand Derby. I'm with Aiden with Field of Gold. I was really liking that run, and you've got to like the fact that he's going to be in a forward position. That is a gun spot to be, and if he is a runner if you look at the New Zealand Derby and how that race could be run, and if he gets the right draw, and everybody knows that he's going to be the leader, and everyone else wants to see out 2,400 metres and find their positions, and get them into a good rhythm. Well, he might be in a good rhythm in front, and he might be the one that will be, leaving them for dead, because he was strong through the line. He wasn't just clinging on at the end of the Waikato Guineas. If you watch him pass the line, I mean, he's roaring. He is still going, and I'm sure, Aiden, you've heard that from your jockey as well, and Michael McNabb, with just how strong he was past the line in that race a couple of weeks ago.
One thing about him, he's by a sprinting stallion, but he is a half to Sherwood Forest, who won the Derby a couple of years ago. So there's just such an advantage, isn't there, to being on pace in these 3-year-old races, especially the lead-ups, because in the lead-ups, that's when connections really want their horses to be settling and showing that they can get up to a Derby trip. So you don't see too many moves. Once you get on speed in the Waikato Guineas, that normally means you're in a great space to win. And Avondale Guineas has been pretty much similar in recent years as well. So he will be up there on speed as well. Obviously, Tony Pipes with a great hand in the race with Tutukaka, like you say, will only get warm at 1,800 metres, yet was good enough to be running second in a really good 1,600 metre race last time out. So yeah, there's a lot of top level depth to this race. I think there is a bit of a tail to it, but at the top, I think there's 4 really key chances and 6 or 7 that could be bubbling right there.
I want to talk more about a Field of Gold, because I think, is it the reason we're getting 850 and it's been drifting since we opened, is that question mark, Aiden, that whether it will stay, and we're always looking for these things that are running on that we think they're going to get the mile and a half, and then we tend to forget the front runners who might have been a query at 1,600, 2,000 that get a cheap time of it in front, and then the next thing you know, they've won a derby. Is that why we're seeing a little bit of softening in the market?
Well, potentially, because what we saw on the eye at the end of that Waikato Guineas was the margin was dwindling. So the Perfect Pinks taking ground off it, Seamus is coming, RJ's Flight, and Regal Lion, even the Milkmen, were all sort of taking ground off Field of Gold. But the good part was he'd done all the work early. He'd done all the hard work. He was able to quicken at the 800 and then still keep up that gallop. And then through the line, he was strongest. They weren't passing him in a hurry after the line either. As BP said, he is a horse who, he can dictate, and he's got a high cruising speed that he's able to then quicken off as well. So I really like him in this, and I think we'll see really on Saturday just how much his Derby claims are there, and I think they'll be strong.
Yeah, okay. That's not surprising. I'm not going to say it's surprising, but that's interesting read of the race around Field of Gold for me. BP Le Creek, we haven't spoken enough about this filly. Hard to get that win of the Desert Goldie out of your head last time, isn't it?
Look, it is. And she played with them and she monstered them really in the end, didn't she? And she showed that she is just a class above. Was she just so much better than her opposition in that Desert Gold compared to some other fields that she might have come up against? Look, she was, and this is a test for her again, and we get to see her going beyond the 1,600 metres. She should naturally find a good spot in the race, you would imagine, because she is drawn on the inside of Field of Gold. She's a horse that can take a spot if they do want to do that with her, or whether they're going beyond the 1,600 metres, so they want to take more of a sort of just off them position, maybe 1 off 3 back type of run for her. Mm-hmm. I think the Perfect Pink is the other horse we do need to talk about, because we've spoken a lot about other runners in this race. These are the 2 runners in the market. The Perfect Pink is drawn barrier number 1, and that's a key factor for her to try and win this race, isn't it? Because Opie's going to be very aware of Field of Gold playing a major danger of trying to be, dictating this race in front. And Aiden, I'm sure that they're not looking to be too far buried on the rail. They wanted to make the most of following the rail around and making sure that she can get into a good posse, sort of maybe 3 back, 4 back on the rail.
Absolutely, because she was quick enough to win a 1,000 guineas, wasn't she? And she was really good that day as well. Her runs in the lead up have been fantastic, and you couldn't have wanted much more from her in a Waikato Guineas. Certainly this is the way the race was run, to favour those on speed, to close off the way she did, and visually she was the one you thought, here we go, here's our Derby horse going forward. It's interesting, isn't it, that we've got 2 fillies dominating the Avondale Guineas, and we have to go back to Silent Chiba times to really find a filly that was this much in contention this far out from a Derby. These 2 do look like they've got a lot of upside. Like you say, La Creek was just superb at Trenton last time. Yeah,
absolutely. White Noise pops. I just want to touch on White Noise. Ginger Nut Salver winner. Doing it very well. This is a step up though, but money for it at $12.
Yeah, and so that means it's run a distance early in its preparation. I know Aiden is forever telling me that form doesn't hold up. Last winner, Mongolian Khan. Was that right, Aiden?
I think so. I've been always a little bit dubious of that form, but well, maybe this year, maybe.
Look, right trainer. Look, the horse has won 2 stakes races this season. Look, it was also winning the Wellington Stakes, which has proved a winning race towards the Derby, the 100-to-1 shot. Was it Crown Prosecutor won that race to then go on and win a Vodafone New Zealand Derby. Look, he's in a good piece of form at the moment, and he's out of the right stable. There's been a little bit of money for the horse too, hasn't there, Thad?
Yeah, no, there has. It's a losing result. In fact, RJ's Flight, the one you didn't mind at odds there, is a losing result currently, as is White Noise. So there is some interest there. And as you say, he has had that trip up over ground, hasn't he?
Yeah, look, RJ's Flight, he hasn't been the worst, and he's run a placing in the Ginger Nut Salver. He ran just in behind them into 4th position in the Waikato Guineas. So yes, even though he is still a maiden galloper, he'll be able to find his way into the Derby with that stakes placing, or RJ's Flight. And let's be honest, that, and I know you guys won't be surprised, but every time this horse has run, he has been very well backed. It doesn't matter what price to put up. Look, they're clearly keen to chime in here and have a bet. So, he has shown without winning that he's a capable horse, and he might be in that Regal Lion, sort of nest egg to Toki, whatever runs well in that middle market. If he can run into that sort of 3rd or 4th position, where there'll be an adjustment in the Derby price.
Let's have a look at this Derby market if the boys can manage to bring that up for us. Obviously, the top 4 there are pretty well cemented, and you can see them. And then Pinarello, I think, goes around on Sunday. Aidan will be able to tell us a bit more. But as you say, Regal Lion out there at 26, Nest Eggs in that market somewhere 16s, and even the one you mentioned, RJ's Flight, I think, out there around $26. Aidan, do you echo those comments, or how would you be having a look to go in this futures market?
Well, the other thing is, like, you see horses like SVR. There's a couple of horses in that 65 distance that we were wanting to come through the back door, but we know that the Avondale Guineas is the pathway of the last 10 New Zealand derbies. 9 of them have come through that Avondale Guineas. I think 6 of them have won the Avondale Guineas, including Rocket Spade last year. I think the only one who didn't come through that pathway was Crown Prosecutor, and he won the Derby at $105. So this is your pathway. You've got to find an Avondale Guineas horse to go on into the Derby. They're all there for mine. I think this is the key form line, the key lead-up race, and we'll see the strong Derby favourite and the Derby winner emerge from tomorrow.
You're going to back Field of Gold tomorrow in the Avondale Guineas, Aidan? 8.5 good enough for you?
Yep, absolutely. I like Field of Gold, and I think he'll stamp himself as being a bona fide Derby chance tomorrow. And wouldn't it be amazing to see half brothers winning Derbies within the space of 2 years?
Yeah, absolutely it would. BP, that Derby market, obviously you mentioned RJ's Flight, $41. RJ's Flight, Regal Line, $26. So that'd be the way you'd be having a little bit of a look.
Yeah, possibly. I think that's the way you can go. Is there a top 3 market still available on your Derby?
I believe there is. So
you'd have a little feverishly look as well. Yes, there is a top 3 market. So, look, you could have a top 3 futures bet maybe on one of those roughies if you were that way inclined and believe that maybe those top horses are going to be too hard to go past, but maybe run into a top 3. So let's have a quick look here. Regal Line's $8, top 3. Pinarello. I want to quickly touch on Pinarello and SVR, because what if one of those 2 horses come out and beat older horses and do it impressively? Just how much weight do you put on one of those 2 winning or one of those 2 running really well leading into the Derby? Pinarello's the horse that could be the one that could upset them in terms of the stats around the Avondale Guineas. I did like the run last time out at Ruakaka when breaking it all down. Visually, first of all, like, oh man, that was a race where I was expecting the horse to go on with the job, but they just had so many hiccups leading up to that race at Ruakaka, 1,600 metres. Just how the race was run, got back in a sticky spot, had to come around and make a move, still ran the fastest last 200 in that race, did Pinarello, and we get to see the horse going to 2,100 metres. SVR did a very good job in winning a maiden over 2,100 off the back of a very good runner in the Maiden company, and look, they have pinpointed for quite some time that SVR is going to be a Derby horse, and I think it was one of your early bets at 100 to 1 and one of your bad results in the futures market around SVR. So I'm very interested to see what those 2 horses can do up against the older horses after the Avondale Guineas to see if they can put themselves in a good spot for the Derby.
Yeah, 100%. Who's going to win the Avondale Guineas, or how are you going to have a bet there tomorrow, BP?
Look, I'm banking on Field of Gold going forward and giving a really big sight. And if the Perfect Pink can be closer than where she was first time of asking, it was always a case of her having to overcome her wide barrier draw by going back, being neutral early, first time over ground. Here on Saturday, they have that chance to be a lot closer, a pair or 2 closer, hugging the rail, cutting corners, getting the right gaps at the right time. If she is close enough to Field of Gold, I'm happy to be with the Perfect Pink, and she will be one of the hardest horses to beat in the Vodafone New Zealand Derby if that all unfolds. So I'll go the Perfect Pink, and I'll have something on Field of Gold also, maybe top 2 or top 4, something like that.
The boys lining up on Field of Gold, and it's a bit bulletproof with its racing pattern. So that will be an intriguing Avondale Guineas with the night of the Derby. Now, look, we're running out of time here, boys. And we haven't even got down to Invercargill. It's a huge day down there, and we've cut into Aiden's screen time, basically, because he was going to run us through what was going to be happening down there. He's all over the form down in the deep south. Aiden, let's start with the Guineas. You run us through. Can anything beat Palmetto off that last start run?
I don't think so. It's a Guineas that really does lack depth, though. But Palmetto was good in the Dunedin Guineas last time out. Master Marco was 3 wide the trip, 3 and 4 wide the trip, and ran on really nicely for third. And Beau Rouge was another one in that same race. But it's a Guineas that really does lack depth. Palmetto was good on the clock late as well, and just stepped up nicely. And now gets to the home track for a Southland Guineas. So it really does seem to be just put on for
$1.80. You'd be happy to put that in through your multis. Out to $5 Master Marco. Did he come out of the same race last time? Yes, he did, behind Palmetto. So that run for third obviously seems to be in the improving stage, Master Marco.
Yeah, it was a good run too, because it was just off a wide trip throughout, and obviously comes from the stable of Kelvin and Amy Tyler. They're so potent in Southland races. Should be pretty hard to beat. The thing is that both horses that will get back off speed, their track apparently has come up a good 3 this morning. They are irrigating. There's a bit of rain forecast as well. It was a dead 6 on Wednesday. When Invercargill is dry, it does normally favour those on speed. So that would just be the one thing to be a little bit wary about, not only for this race, but through the whole card, because there's some really nice horses that will get off speed in the undercard. You think, wow, these are horses I want to be betting, but just how that pattern plays, you want to watch the first couple of races at least.
Yeah, okay, that's good info. And what about the Cup, race number 8, the Bailey and Lewis Pharmacies Invercargill Gold Cup We've got a pretty decent lineup here.
Was terrific in the Dunedin Cup, closed with the quickest 8 and 6 of that race to win it. Speaking to Kelvin Tyler earlier in the week, says he's really trained on, hasn't taken a backward step. Savazar comes up favourite after a really good win in the Waikouaiti Cup a couple of starts back before running 5th in that Dunedin Cup last time out. Bully Boy comes out of the same race as El Gladiador. They ran 2nd and 3rd last time out at Riccarton, and that form seems rock solid as well. And if you look at the pace here, it comes from Riviera Rock, who's kicked on really nicely for 2nd in the Dunedin Cup last time out. And you'd expect Wannabe in Paris to be really positively ridden, as is Bully Boy here. So I actually defaulted to Kilowatt. I thought at the prices was the best way to go. And I thought Azerthorpe, a real Southland horse, half to Avondale, won the Gore Cup and was pretty good and closing off really strongly with good sectionals in the Dunedin Cup as well. So I'd give that a chance at a nice price in second.
I heard Kelvin Tyler's comments during the week, Aidan, around Kilowatt. He was pretty bullish as well. And if we do get to a slow or dead 6 or even into that slow range, boy, oh boy, he'd be riding calculation, wouldn't he?
Absolutely, because he's a horse who does perform, certainly in the south. That draws a little bit tricky and could mean that they go back a little bit further than what they intended. But he came from last to win the Dunedin Cup with, as we said, the quickest 8 and 6 of the race, equal second quickest, equal quickest last 400. So there's enough in Kilowatt's run, and from what we're hearing, that the horse is really trained on, so to say it'd be a great chance. And he's captured the imagination down there. He's won 10 races, a heap of cups, and he's raced by a pub syndicate. So they'll be having the time of their lives down there.
Absolutely, Cup's king. You'd have nothing to add on the back of that, Pops, would you? Aidan's covered it off beautifully down in the deep south.
Look, he has, hasn't he? I mean, Palmetto is a horse that does look to be the one to beat in the Guineas. And if that rain does come, that's only going to increase the horse's chances. Because if it was to hang around that good to 3 dead bracket, would that be a little red flag against Palmetto with all those better wins on off tracks, Aidan?
You could, because we saw this horse in the winter and racing, with merit in some pretty testing conditions. But this is a race that really does lack depth. It's a listed race, and that status might be in doubt. We've seen better fields than this in previous years, so it will be of real concern to the club to have a field, just down on the quality. But a home track win, and it might come there with Palmetto as well. The last start win was good at stakes level, so they'll be really hoping that the benchmark horse in the race can get the job done.
Yeah, good luck to Sally Mackay, and all the connections are with around Palmetto and the Kilowatt team down there in the deep south. Have one on me if Kilowatt can take out the Invercargill Gold Cup. Okay, guys, we better wind it up. Best bet time. Like I tell you what, BP, I'm glad Paul Moati isn't here, because he's gone 2 in a row with his best bets. This is unheard of territory for him. What did you settle on for your bet of the day?
He hasn't provided one just to keep the roll going, Mr. Moati.
Cue in the rack, BP. He's not going to risk a winning formula, I don't think. Stay out of it.
Look, we'll go to the Avondale Guineas. I'll mark the perfect pink. As much as I'm so wary of Field of Gold in that race, I'll go with the Group 1 form and also with how she performed last time out. And as I said in the summation, if she can be closer to Field of Gold, that might be just the key to the race in terms of her really nailing down her favouritism for the Vodafone New Zealand Derby. We've got no Cooper Cup to be able to run it through, so we'll have to try and find some other multis, but boy, that was the lock of the weekend, was it not, in the Super Bowl? And I hope Punter's cleaned up off Cooper Cup.
Did you go 2+ as well? He got the second one, didn't he?
He got the second one to seal the game, yes. 4.5, I think it was, just from memory.
Just from memory, off the top of your head. Yeah, okay. Aidan, bet of the daytime. Where you go? Take us down south, surely. Take us down to Invercargill for a bit of the day.
Yep, for sure I will. And I'm going to another Sally Mackay runner, so another one prepared on the home track, and this is Henry Hubber. Comes from a mile back in a what was otherwise an on-speed dominated race, quickest last 8, 6, 4 and 2 of this race. And this was on Southern debut, was actually on debut. Prior to that, had been at 2 trials in the north, one at Rotorua when running 4th. Now, further back in that same trial was Rose Crescent, who came out and won up in the north for Ken Kelso, so nicely at Te Rapa, and then went and won a trial at the Cambridge All Weather, and the next 2 horses home were both placed in the north as well. So you knew something was coming, really good debut. Unfortunately, it's a horse who might just get back again, so it is race 4, so we'll get 3 races just to check out patterns. And as long as racing sort of fairly, then I think Henry Hubbard's a really good bet, and better than even money at the moment in race 4.
Okay, thank you, Aidan. Thank you for your efforts as well today, mate. We appreciate you stepping in and carrying the baton, picking up the baton for us, and good luck with Bonnie Lass come Saturday afternoon.
My pleasure to be part of it. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks to Aidan Rodley. Cheers, BP, for your efforts. What do you think about Aidan? Reasonable substitute? We'll keep him in the rotation, or what are you thinking?
A reasonable substitute. Wow, let's get him off that bench and have him on every week. No, great to have him part of it, and we look forward to Stephen and of course Mawadi back next week. But yeah, big thanks to Aidan.
Yeah, and thank you to you. What are you up to tomorrow, Pops? You'll be on track, are you?
Yep. Heading to Ellerslie tomorrow. Okay. So, such an important day. So, nice for the team to be able to say you can come north and get on track. So, I'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah, a few boys might be sweating after that performance from Aidan. Thank you to him. Thank you to BP as always. And we'll see you again in 7 days' time on The Leg Up.